Are business loans worth it? We're going to answer that question in this video. Okay, in this video, we're going to decide whether or not it's worth it to take out a business loan. Well, that's going to depend on a couple key factors. One, how much money are you borrowing? Are you borrowing just like $1? You borrowing $1 million? How much are you borrowing? And second, most importantly, how much interest are you going to pay on that loan? You got to remember that if you're going to borrow money, the person lending you the money or the institution wants to make a profit for loaning you that money. There's risk on their side because theoretically, you might not ever pay them back. They might lose everything that they loan you. Hopefully that's not the case, but they have to factor that into their equation. So for doing that, they charge you interest. Now, the times that I've gotten business loans with my various businesses, I've always gone for the loans that have the lowest interest rate. I mean, there are times where you can get close to 0% interest, not 0%, but really close, maybe 1% or 2%. There's even credit cards that'll mail me stuff and say, hey, you can borrow up to your credit line and we'll loan you the money at 0% interest, promotional for 12 months. And then you pay some kind of fee, origination fee or some kind of fee to borrow the money. So let's say, for example, you borrowed $10,000, okay? You're borrowing $10,000 and they're gonna give you the 0% interest, but they're gonna charge you, say, 3% as a fee. So what that means is they're actually gonna charge you about 3%, and that's assuming that you pay it off like a good person would do in that year period. Because if you don't, that interest rate is gonna skyrocket and then it becomes bad. So you wanna be the good person and not the bad person that's over there paying the high interest rates. Okay, so in that case, you borrow $10,000, okay? They claim it's 0% and then somehow they can play the game where they say, oh, it's just a fee. But let's get real. You're borrowing $10,000 to pay back $10,300 in this example if you're having to pay back 3%. And again, assuming that that's paid back within 1 year. To me, if you've got a good place to put that money and you have strong income coming in from various different places, then I think it's worth a shot, right? I mean, obviously, whatever you borrow, you got to pay back, and hopefully you're good with the money that you don't lose it all. Because the key is not to lose the principal, because then you're really in a bad spot, because now you got to pay it all back, and then if it rolls past that 12 months, they might jack it up to 15, 20, 25, 30% interest, and that really hurts. So a lot of different places you can get business loans from. We just mentioned credit cards. If they have promotional rates, obviously those could be very low interest rates. You have places like the SBA, the Small Business Administration, they give out loans. But my initial thought, if you're gonna start a business, and this is your very first business you've ever started, is start with your own money and your own resources, your own time, your own people around you, maybe your own family. Start with that. And we're going to talk about this in other videos. I don't recommend, as a general statement, family businesses, because you love your family. There's a lot of disagreements that happen over the course of time in a family business, and you don't want that to hurt your relationship with your family. But at the beginning, as long as not everybody's feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to this, or this is going to be my business too for the rest of my life. Your family a lot of times is a great support system to help you start out. And they're not going to charge you. It's your family for the most part. They're going to help you out, get you off the ground. So in my opinion, if you're going to start your first business, if you're starting a business, try to do it with the limited resources that you have. And that's because you don't put yourself under so much debt. Debt, it compounds on you, it wears on you. And it's for those of you that have, say, a student loan, you've graduated from college and you owe a couple $100,000 on your student loan, you know what I'm talking about. It's this ongoing bill that just feels like it's never going to end. And a lot of the student loans haven't gotten fully paid back after people have had them for over 30 years. I mean, that's like a house. So if you're going into a business and it's your first business and you need to borrow money, my recommendation is don't do that unless absolutely necessary. Unless you absolutely know that if you have to go shovel crap or do whatever you got to do to make those payments, you're willing to do it, that's one thing. You're going to go mow your entire neighborhood's lawns if you have to and shovel all their driveways, fine. Then borrow the money as long as you know you're going to do the work to pay it back. But the second you take that money, you're on the hook with somebody else. You owe them that money. And that money, if it's an individual, they had to work hard, save up all that money, pay their taxes, all that stuff to get that money so they could loan you. So that money, in a sense, represents time in their life that they worked hard, paid their bills, and were smart enough to save their money. And now they're going to loan it to you. So remember when we started this video, we talked about two things: how much are you borrowing and what the interest rate is. If you get to the point where you're actually going to need to borrow money, shop around. Don't just take the first offer unless the first one's irresistible, like, hey, I'll loan you $5,000 with no interest and you can just pay me back whenever. If you never pay me back, I don't care. Well, that's one heck of a loan, but try not to take advantage of that, take advantage of that person because, they might feel that, if you go back to them or borrow more money, hey, you're in a sense kind of using them. They're probably somebody special in your life that's just wanting to do you a favor. And it's important that when somebody does you a huge favor like that, that you don't go past, you're welcome, so to speak, right? You really don't want to take advantage of that person. I know some people might say, well, you're taking advantage of the situation. And yes, I get that, but that's in more of a positive way, okay? You're saying, hey, I've developed a great relationship with this person. They obviously love me enough that they're going to loan me this. But to me, if I was that person, I'm going to feel way more indebted to that person, and I 100% am going to pay that person back no matter what I have to do. I don't care what the law says or the legal system says. Some people try to get out of their loans by filing bankruptcy, and then they hose over all their creditors so that they don't have to pay them back. In certain circumstances, a bankruptcy is like the only option. So, you obviously don't lose your house, you don't lose everything. That's how the legal's set up. I personally have never filed and have no intention on ever doing that. I don't feel right. I don't feel I would sleep good at night. So know that the way that these people go bankrupt is usually from a couple different ways. They could get in over their heads to where they know that they can never pay it back, so they file bankruptcy. Some people just quit and throw in the towel because not that they're lazy, they just don't want to do the work. They just don't want to do the work to pay it back. They said, wow, I get in so much debt. I don't want to spend the next 10 years of my life paying this back. So they do that. Again, I frown upon it. I don't like it. I don't like that. It's kind of like the chicken exit, right? It's the way of just getting out of a situation. And again, it goes back to that integrity. Your word, something you can't buy back. When you're going to fill out an application for a business loan, one of the questions on that application is going to be, have you ever filed bankruptcy? Think about that. The bank wants to know who you are to the core because they know if you filed bankruptcy, that you're the type of person, when you're desperate, you're going to find the chicken exit. You're going to find a way in the system to not pay them back. And that looks bad. That looks bad on an application. It doesn't mean, I don't know because I haven't filed. But it probably would mean if I was sitting on the bank side of the equation loaning the money, I personally would not want to loan those people money. I wouldn't want to loan people that have filed bankruptcy. I just think they've got it in the cards to where they're going to look for excuses not to pay back a loan, right? And the purpose of a loan is getting your money back and then making some money on it. So, going back to borrowing money, getting a loan for your business, there's a term, it's called bootstrapping your business. It's basically taking your hard-earned money and your resources and taking that money to build your business. Building a business is a slow process. It's not something that you go really fast, you want to really get to. You want to push and do as much as you can, but it's a kind of a methodical process, okay? It's calculated. And so as you're getting, say lines of credit or loans or things like that, ask yourself, why do I really want to borrow this money? Do I really need to get this money? A lot of times people, they overborrow. They try to get too much money. And you think to yourself, well, why are you borrowing that much? What are you going to use it for? They're going to put it in your bank. Now what? If you don't know how to use it, if you don't know what to do with it, you're just basically paying somebody else, another institution, interest kind of for no reason. Kind of makes you a slave to that. That's kind of how it is. You become a slave to paying back all this money. That's in a sense what debt is. You're a slave to somebody else. Let that sink in. That's the truth. So that's why we all have dreams and hopes. Let's pay our houses off, pay our cars off. Let's not be in debt. That's kind of what everybody wants. Let's pay our student loans off. So if you're going to make that decision to go into debt, have a game plan. make sure you have a game plan to pay it back. And I strongly recommend not taking out long-term loans. Don't take out a super long-term loan because that's just assuming that you're going to be around that long to pay that debt back. The payment might look better. It's kind of like when you get a car now. Sometimes some car manufacturers, they offer you like 72 months. I think I saw 84 months. That's 7 years. That means for 84 months straight, you either have to have guaranteed income, like a paycheck coming in, your business is going to have to be producing for 84 months straight, or 72 or 60 months or whatever it is. You got to be consistent. So that's why the payment might be $400 a month or whatever, $300, $400, $500 a month, is because you got to pay it 80 times, right? So a loan for a business is like that. Let's imagine for 1 second that you start a business and you're excited at the beginning. Your friends, your family, they're really excited. And any business I've gotten into, that's how it is. And then it's just like dating. It's the honeymoon period. And then after 3 months, 6 months, if you're not turning a leaf and you're not starting to make money or going the direction of, hey, we're going to start making money here pretty soon, it kind of becomes a chore. It doesn't become as exciting and all the newness is kind of worn off the business. And so imagine if you took out a loan and you borrowed like $100,000 and they said, oh, don't worry, it's only $1,000 a month to pay us back, but it's like a 10-year loan or something like that. You got to stay in business for 10 years. 10 years, like that's a long period of your life. For some people, if they started their business when they're 30 or 40, I mean, that might be, 20% of your life, 30% of your life, depending on, what time you start. That's a lot of time. So these are the things that you have to take into account. So the takeaway from this video is do your absolute best, your very best to not borrow money if you don't have to. But if you get to that point that you have to borrow money, go and shop your loans and find a place, a credit card, a bank, someone like that, a close friend that you could maybe have an attorney drop a promissory note and put the interest in, something like that. And try to find one with the lowest interest rate possible and don't take out a long-term loan. I hope this video has been helpful. I hope you all continue to be the hustler.